So now let's go to the second part. So for sobresdrújulas, guys, because they don't exist naturally in Spanish, we have to make them up. So I'm going to give you a sentence, okay, that it's going to be very easy, but I want you to see a little bit. In Spanish, we have sentences where either one, you have a direct object, two, you have an indirect object, or three, you have both the indirect and direct object pronoun. So let's put those sentences here so that you will see. So in the first one, I'm going to say, yo estoy cocinando el pavo. So in this case, you have the subject conjugated with the verb. This is called present progressive. The present of the verb estar plus the ing or gerund of the second verb. So you're saying, I am cooking the turkey. So this is what is the direct object right here. The direct object, which is it. So you're saying, I am cooking it. You're substituting el pavo for a direct object, which is the it. In the second sentence, I can have the same thing. Yo estoy cocinando para Steve. So now here in this second sentence, I am saying I am cooking, but I'm not saying what I am cooking, but I'm telling you for whom I am cooking. In this case, Steve. So he will be the indirect object of my sentence, and it's for him. So it will be him. Yes? Okay. And then the last sentence will be the combination of both. So you will say, yo estoy cocinando el pavo para Steve. So remember, in the first sentence, we only had the direct object. In the second sentence, only the indirect object. And in the third, we have both the indirect and direct object pronouns, okay? So now, let's look for a minute what are the indirect and direct object pronouns in Spanish. And you probably have seen them already. They look very much like the pronouns of the reflexive verbs. So the indirect object pronouns will be me, te, le, nos, and les. And the direct objects are me, te, lo, la, nos, los, and las. So this is the recipient of the action, and this is the person who receives the whole thing. So that's why you would say, I cook it for him, or I am cooking it for him. The it being the direct object, and for him, substituting Steve. Make sense? So that will be the indirect object. Okay, so now that you see here the indirect and direct, you know then for Steve, the third person, we will have to use le. For the direct object, to substitute turkey, then it will be lo, because it's a masculine, el pavo. Okay, so then we have el pavo, which will be lo, and Steve, which will be le. So if I want to substitute both of them in a sentence, it will be something like, I need a bigger blackboard. I write too big. Okay, so let me try to do that. I'm gonna erase this part up here. Okay, so I'm gonna now substitute that in the same sentence using the I am cooking. So that is the present progressive. So I'm gonna say, yo estoy cocinando, that's the cocinando, but then we go to the indirect object, le, and then the direct object, lo, for the turkey. So you're saying, I am cooking for him it. Unlike English, you start first with the indirect object and then the direct object. The problem is, when you have both indirect and direct that start with an L, the first one, the indirect, has to change to se. So then you say, yo estoy cocinándoselo. When you do this, you get an accent over the E. So this is now a sobresdrújula word because the tonic accent is 4 to the last. So let's look at this one. So this is the last, second to the last, third to the last. This is fourth to the last. You see, fourth to the last. So sobresdrújulas always get an accent, no matter what. But we don't have, as I said, sobresdrújulas that are natural. They're all compounded. Make sense? All right. So now that I have shown you that, I'm going to erase this. And now I'm going to show you what happens with the words that we did above. It only happens mostly with the agudas, breves, or llanas, more than the esdrújulas and sobresdrújulas. Okay, so now let's look at the word canción again, guys, okay? But we're gonna make it plural. So how do we form the plural form? We form the plural if the word ends in a consonant, you have to add es. If the word ends in a vowel, you only add an s. So that's simple. And then there's a third one that is if the word ends in a Z, you change the Z for a C, and then you add the ES, okay? So let's look at canciones. So we're gonna make it plural. It ends in a consonant, so we're adding the ES. So now we have to divide it again into syllables. So we go canción, because this is now how it should be easy. We can't say the ción, because then look at what happens with the last syllable. Canción es. It's like separate. And remember, it has to be smooth. The transition between each syllable has to be smooth. So you have to say canciones, linking the sounds. So that's why it goes this way. So we moved from having the N in the singular form to having the N as part of the last syllable. So then, where is the tonic accent? Is it still here in the middle? Is it in the end? Or is it up here? It really hasn't changed. It's now here. So you're saying canciones. Make sense? But look at this. Now, the shift has gone from being an aguda, where the tonic accent was in this last syllable, to now second to the last. You see that? So now that it's second to the last, it became a breves and llanas word. But the problem is, breves or llanas cannot end in an S to have a written accent. So therefore, it loses the accent in the plural. Make sense? So now let's look at árbol, and let's make it plural. So we go árboles, because if you say árbol and then you leave the S by itself, it sounds awkward. Instead, you have to link the smoothness out of it. Árboles. Bien? Okay, so then where is the tonic accent? It's still in here in the first one. Árboles. But look at how it has shifted now. It used to be second to the last, now it's third to the last, which means that now it is a esdrújula word. And does it have a written accent? Yes. Esdrújulas always have a written accent, no matter where it stops the word. So it always has. If it is third to the last and it has the emphasis of the tonic voice in there, then it has a written accent. And then sobresdrújulas, as I said, they are unusual, they are compounded, and they don't exist naturally. We have to make them up. So that is the rule of the accents.